Hello everybody, my name is Valerie Greenwell and welcome to Quilt Artistry. Today I'm going to be working on a quilted jacket and I had a few thoughts about making this, and so I thought this might be a good place to make another video and kind of show you guys what I'm doing. So sometime last year I decided that I wanted to make a quilted jacket and I wanted to quilt it on my long arm machine. So I went to my local fabric store in Bloomington, Indiana, and I got this pattern from Grainline Studios for the Tamarack jacket. Now, this pattern was intended to make a quilted jacket. However, the instructions for this jacket show the instructions for quilting on a domestic machine. And of course I wanted to quilt it on a long arm. So a lot of things about the pattern had to be changed or altered so that the quilting could be done before the assembly. I took a class at University of Sewing in Bloomington. They helped me alter my pattern to make the alterations that I needed in order to make my jacket fit correctly. So you'll see here I have my pattern pieces with my extensions because I wanted my jacket to be nice and long. I also wanted it to be bigger and blousier, so it would really be like wearing a quilt. So I got all of my alterations made, and I bought this beautiful black denim fabric there. And of course my idea all along was to stitch it with this teal thread so that it would be very visible. I wanted the stitching to stand out a lot. So, there's no instructions for doing it the way that I'm doing it. So I'm kind of making my directions as I go. And I will also say that I am not a clothing designer or manufacturer. This is not in my wheelhouse. I am a quilt maker who just decided one day I wanted to make a jacket. So I don't have a lot of experience in making or assembling clothing. When I got ready to start this project, I cut out all of my pattern pieces from this black denim fabric. And the problem that I ran into almost immediately was even pinning the pattern to the fabric, I realized that this denim is it's almost slippery, very hard to stay in place, and it was hard to cut. And so some of the pieces that I cut, they are not perfect along the edges. So I was not thrilled with the cutting process of this. And then when I put it on my machine and I started quilting, I realized that I was going to have a few areas where the side flipped over. As I was basting my pieces down, I noticed that I was having a very hard time getting my pieces to stay in place. And I pinned them in place first, but as I'm stitching it, it's moving my fabric. This is probably the absolute thinnest batting that I could get. This is the Theramore batting. It's a very, very lightweight polyester batting that was intended to be used in clothing. And still, it was really pushing my fabric around as I was trying to paste it. So I wasn't thrilled with that. So about halfway through this process of quilting all of these pieces, I had an epiphany, a moment of realization that there is probably a better way to do this. So I'm actually, at this point now, I am dedicated to making 2 of these jackets. This one right here will be the very first one, my idea was, instead of cutting out the pieces and then quilting them, that perhaps it would be easier if I laid out all of my fabric, my black fabric, on my, and this is wide quilt backing that I'm using. So if I lay out a giant piece of black fabric from one side all the way to the other, if I place my pattern pieces on top, and then I use Statler to trace around each of those pieces, then I can create an outline of these pieces that I can stitch onto a solid piece of fabric, and then I can fill those pieces with my quilt patterns. I don't know if it's going to work out any better or not, but I thought, I already have everything all set up, so what's the harm in trying? I'm going to roll this quilt padding forward. I'm going to load a giant piece of black fabric, solid, and then I'm going to trace my pattern pieces using Statler, and then I'm going to try to quilt them. We'll see how this goes. So anyway, this is going to be a learning experience for me, so I'm excited to see how this goes. So I'll come back as I am doing each step and kind of walk you guys through how I do this. I hope this works out, because if it does, then really this would be a great way for anybody to be able to make their own style of quilted jacket using their longhorn.